I spent the last week going through every frame of each DC Extended Universe movie, dialing in on each date, each reference to time and to season, all to create a definitive and comprehensive timeline for the DCEU. Now that Aquaman is in theaters and it's no longer possible to count each of the DCEU films on one hand, it's time we brought together some order out of all this chaos. It's time we put each movie on a chronological timeline. If you've watched our MCU timelines, the two primary rules we go by are that we only include live-action media, and that we won't break up the film or show unnecessarily, but rather figure out where the majority of each film takes place, and place it accordingly on the timeline. This way you can watch each film in chronological order. Beware of spoilers. The first title on our timeline is, unsurprisingly, Wonder Woman. While the film does begin and end with Diana in 2016, as Bruce sends her the first ever photograph taken of Diana, only 2.5% of the film is based in 2016. There's also an undefined period of time that spans thousands of years that encompass some 7.5% of the runtime that occur as either a series of montage sequences of Diana growing up, or recounts of ancient legends of the Greek pantheon. 90% of the runtime takes place during the last few weeks of the Great War in 1918. The closest we can pin it down to is November 1918, as in Luthor's encrypted files from Batman v Superman, her picture is dated to November 1918. The film that breathed life into the DCEU, Man of Steel, comes next on our timeline, though its main time frame takes place some 95 years into the future. The film has a non-linear structure in that it heavily incorporates flashbacks to different times. A large portion of the beginning of the film, 14.4%, occurs in, presumably, 1980, or 33 years before the main events of the film in 2013. We also have flashbacks to 1989, where Clark struggles with his heightened senses, 1993, where a 13-year-old Clark saves a school bus full of his peers, and in 1997, when Jonathan Kent dies. Most DCEU timelines will agree that Man of Steel takes place in 2013. But where in 2013 is up for a little bit of debate. There's a case to be made that it occurs in June, as 3 government monitors read June 2013, which is also the date the film was released. But this is more likely a file name than anything, and when Lois chooses to visit the frozen Kryptonian ship, she takes a picture dated November 28, 2013. But literally a second later, that same picture reads September 25th, 2013. We can surmise that the Battle of Metropolis occurs sometime in the near future to when Lois took that picture, likely less than a month. So it either takes place in mid-October or mid-December. Despite the fact that they visit Kansas several times in the movie and it is never pictured as snowy, which it normally is in December, December appears to be the chosen time frame that the future DCEU films have placed it. So we're placing Man of Steel in November or December of 2013. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice begins by recounting the Batman origin story of Thomas and Martha Wayne's death in 1981. About 2.6% of the film occurs here. Another 3% of the runtime is devoted to Bruce's time during the Battle of Metropolis in late 2013. The vast majority of the film, 94.3% of the Ultimate Edition, occurs in 2015. If we place the Battle of Metropolis in December of 2013, then when it claims that 18 months later a large chunk of kryptonite is discovered, it must be somewhere around July or August of 2015. Some time passes as the pieces of the film come together and Bruce Wayne is invited to Lex Luthor's party, dated November 1st, when he first meets Clark Kent and Diana Prince. Some days later, he claims 3 months ago a chunk of kryptonite was found which fits almost perfectly, give or take a month. And then shortly thereafter, Diana's computer reads November 12th at night, meaning Superman's official day of death is November 13th, the following day. Suicide Squad, despite its many narrative flaws, is surprisingly airtight when it comes to the dates featured in the film. It, like Man of Steel before it, incorporates a non-linear storyline, utilizing many flashbacks dated in 2014 and 2015. The 2014 scenes, which take up about 10.6% of the runtime, center around Harley Quinn and Deadshot's flashbacks. The 2015 scenes, flashbacks for Boomerang, Diablo, and Enchantress, take up only 1.5% of the film's runtime. The majority of the film takes place in August 2016, taking up some 87.8% of the film. Waller's phone reads Friday, August 5th, and in 2016, August 5th conveniently falls on a Friday. 3 days later, on August 8th, Task Force X is brought together to stop Enchantress from destroying Midway City. Justice League is tricky to place, but after thoroughly studying the film far more than it needs to be, we're pretty confident in our placement. Bear with us though, because what we found goes contrary to many other DCEU timelines. We start off with cell phone footage taken in 2015, comprising only 0.7% of the film's runtime. Then there's an extended montage of the world mourning the loss of Superman, and this shot of the Metropolis Post makes note of disappearing heroes David Bowie, Superman, and Prince, meaning the film must take place after April 2016. But I believe the main events must actually occur sometime much later. Note again, Suicide Squad took place in August 2016, and also note that the mid-credit scene of that film sees Bruce Wayne picking up information on other metahumans like Flash and Aquaman from Amanda Waller some unknown weeks or months later. And here's where something truly unlikely happens. Two films notorious for being heavily reshot and edited to make them nearly incoherent, Justice League and Suicide Squad, actually fit together quite neatly. We see here that Waller's files on Aquaman state that he's frequently seen in Iceland. And where does Bruce find him shortly afterward? Djupavik, Iceland. He claims that Arthur comes in the winter when the people are hungry, so this scene must be late 2016 or early 2017. But then notice what Bruce says. He comes on the King's Tide. The King's Tide is an unusually high tide, and interestingly, the highest tide that winter in Iceland occurred January 14th, 2017. So does this movie take place in 2016 or 2017? Overwhelmingly, the evidence points to 2017. 6 days later, Barry Allen visits his father in prison on Friday, January 20th, and that lands on a Friday in 2017. Some time passes before Steppenwolf starts going after the mother boxes, and Diana looks up Victor Stone. His latest reported sighting was on July 4th, 2017. The end of Justice League sees that Barry is accepted to become a forensic scientist on August 28th, 2017, and Diana stands in front of the British Museum where there are exhibit posters dated sometime between November 18th, 2017 and January 18th, 2018. So unequivocally, Justice League takes place in 2017. While we were able to pinpoint where each of the previous films took place to almost the exact day, Aquaman is going to have to wait because we don't have a digital copy to dig through yet. But note that at least several months have passed since Steppenwolf showed up in Justice League, making this undoubtedly 2018. That said, Aquaman creates some massive continuity errors for the DCEU, more than any other film. For instance, it appears they've retconned Arthur's birth year from 1979 to 1985 or 86. But that's only the beginning. If you want to see how big the Aquaman plot holes are, as well as some of the many times the DCEU has been retconned since its first film, click this card to see our brand new But Is It Canon video. We want to thank our patrons for making videos like this possible. Sometimes we drop multiple videos in a week, and sometimes we go many weeks without dropping anything. And that's usually because we're doing huge projects like this, and you guys who are helping us fund the content are making it possible, so thank you very much. Would you like to see more videos like this or our MCU timeline? Please comment below what you would like to see us do a timeline of in the near future. If you want any more specific information on the notes that we took for any of these films, please comment down below and we'll share our notes with you guys because we're just scratching the surface on each of these movies. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't miss our brand new But Is It Canon video for Aquaman and the DCEU. We had a lot of fun making that, but please be sure to like and subscribe to this video before you head out there. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.